Hey guys, welcome to this week's vlog. I hope you are well and feeling at peace. For me, today is a great day. I am managed to put most of my anxieties at bay, and of course, trying to focus on the positive through finding new business strategies, creating different platforms, of course, where I can share my and talk about my three passions in life, and that is women, Africa, and the arts. This week's vlog, I want to follow on the hashtag which I started, Our Voices Are Not on Lockdown. And I want to focus particularly on the impact and the reality that sexual harassment or sexual abuse that happens at the workplace, how this can still affect our well-being, although we're not in the office and sitting at home during lockdown. So, the reality of sexual harassment is that it's very difficult to prove if there isn't enough evidence. And this is why we talk about this, and this is why we create awareness, because it's about um, changing certain policies and stigmas and attitudes that society have towards this, and of course, which have been written through patriarchal and misogynistic ideologies, and um, and how we need to create platforms where people can express freely and believe that if they have been violated, that they have the right to speak up and that they have the right to justice. So, sexual harassment, in so many words, would be the unwelcomed, inappropriate behavior from one person to another, or a group of people to another, or vice versa. It can happen anywhere. It can happen at work. It can happen in the public space. It can happen through doctors. It can happen wherever you are. And it also doesn't necessarily only happen through physical touch. So, by somebody touching you inappropriately, or somebody touching you when you're asking them to stop and they continue. Another form of sexual abuse is also by the use of words or verbal words, or calling somebody names. Um, yeah, it's the explanation is varied. But the reality is, and as I mentioned before, is that a lot of people don't receive justice because there isn't enough evidence in place. And in many cases, many companies, especially if they're small companies, they don't have the policies in place or HR departments where you can report these matters to. So before we get on to the effects of our well-being, uh, just a few tips and pointers is that if it does happen, try and create a paper trail of where you have addressed the matter with either the perpetrator, or if there are procedures in the business of going through HR and different managers. Um, and if there is somebody who witnessed it, trying to get their affidavit or their support in the matter. But remember, perpetrators are very, very manipulative. And a lot of the time, why people do not continue with sexual harassment cases is that the perpetrator will probably gaslight you or try and undermine you or threaten you. And what I mean is the terminology that's often used is, oh, I was just joking, or don't you think you're overreacting, or, you're so oversensitive. Um, and then the other things on, well, who's going to believe you? I have a bigger position to you. You need this job. What will happen if you lose this job because you have a family to support? And then there's of course the other level of the guilt factor of, well, I support a whole family. I'm really sorry. It won't happen again. All these different type of things. But at the end of the day, it's always protecting the perpetrator. So if it has or it is happening to you, know that your trauma is valid and that you have every right to demand and get the justice that you deserve. And there are different avenues that you can take, and different organizations that can help you with that. But the most important thing, and this is what's very, very passionate about to me, is that the healing and the well-being that happens. Because even though it might not be a um, physical form of abuse where you don't have a bruise or you don't have a cut or you don't have a specific pain that somebody can see, does not necessarily mean that you're not feeling the pain here or or in your mind and in your brain, which will have an effect on how you do your work, will have an effect on your relationships at work and your relationships at home. And then, of course, ultimately, it will have an effect on your psyche. And this type of trauma, or any type of trauma that isn't dealt with and isn't treated effectively, will definitely have lead to other illnesses or other effects in your life. And that is where post-traumatic stress disorder comes into play. And it is very, very real. And that can be triggered by anything. It can be a voice, it can be a smell, a sound, a feeling, a dream, anything. And the problem with that is that our bodies are so in tune with our mind and our psyche that it can overcome us, and we then don't have any control on how we're feeling and how we're thinking, which can lead to depression, can lead to other illnesses such as fibromyalgia, and in many cases, suicide attempts and suicide. And the reality of us now being in lockdown is that if we haven't dealt with that trauma at the workplace then, and now we're dealing with another type of trauma, this is just adding on. And the reality also within this space is that although your perpetrator might not be in your physical space now, but you still have to deal with them online. And so there's going to be other forms of sexual harassment that that person might try online. Just remember, all abuse is all about power. So it's just about that fact of trying to control you and control your emotions. And this is why it's important to talk about it, even if you're not experiencing it in your workplace now, but you have experienced it before, because any form of triggering could take place now because we have this heightened our heightened stress levels because of the uncertainty of what's going to be happening over the next couple of months. And after this vlog, I've put up a few numbers of places that you can call. One being the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, and of course, there's also Lifeline. If you do know of other organizations across the continent, because I know a lot of my followers are not just from South Africa, please do share. Obviously, it has to be something online or something that can happen in a WhatsApp group or within the social media space. But this is the space where we need to really be honest with what emotions we're going through. Seeking out for help does not mean that we're weak. Speaking about a trauma that happened to you is essential. At the end of the day, remember, it is not your fault. Your pain is valid. Your trauma is definitely valid. And many of us will believe you. So guys, remember, our voices are not on lockdown. If you do need help, if you are a bit confused or unaware of emotions or a trauma that may have happened and you just need clarity, call one of the numbers or reach out to the activists online and somebody will be able to connect you. But stay in tune with your emotions, feel your emotions, and know that they all are valid. And remember, our voices are not on lockdown. Thanks for watching, guys.